Hello, my dear listeners, and welcome to Household Drama and Family Secrets. I am Sakina, and I am here today to share a story that still, to this day, fills me with a cold dread. This is not a story of romantic betrayal, but of familial betrayal, the kind that cuts deeper than any outsider ever could. Before I begin, I must ask for your kindness and support. Sharing these painful truths helps me heal, and your presence here is my only solace. Please subscribe to my channel and like and comment on this video. Your help is so necessary for me to continue telling these stories. Thank you. This story begins with a loss. The loss of my mother. My mother was a pillar of our home. When she left us, the world tilted. But what followed her passing, what my own brother did, that shattered more than just my heart. My mother was a simple woman. Her life was defined by love and sacrifice. She didn't leave behind jewels or gold. She left one thing of value: our small ancestral property. It was not just land, it was the physical testament to my father's hard work, the foundation of our entire family history. She had 2 children, myself, Sakina, and my younger brother, Toyob Ali. We were always close, my brother Toyob and I. He was the only brother I had. We grieved together when she passed. I never, not for a moment, imagined that grief was merely a cloak for his greed. Before she died, our mother spoke of the property. She made it absolutely clear: the property must be divided equally, half for her daughter, Sakina, and half for her son, Toyob Ali. It was her final wish, spoken clearly, witnessed by family. The initial weeks were spent in mourning, but then my brother, Toyob Ali, started acting strangely. He became distant. He avoided my calls. When I suggested we handle the legal transfer and registration as mother had wished, he would become evasive. He would say, "Don't worry your head about that now, Sakina. There's time. Let's grieve first." But I felt a cold knot forming in my stomach. Why the delay? Why the secrecy? I pushed the feeling away. He is my brother, I told myself. My own brother, Toyob Ali, would never betray me. He is simply overcome with grief. That was my fundamental mistake. I let love blind me to the possibility of greed. The breaking point came when I finally insisted. I told Toyob Ali that I would meet the lawyer myself. He tried to stop me. He shouted. Why shout? But something snapped inside me. I knew then, if my brother was shouting, he was hiding something monumental. I went to the lawyer, alone. I sat down and asked simply, "We are proceeding with the transfer to my name and my brother's, Toyob Ali's name, correct? 50-50, as per my mother's final instruction?" The lawyer, a kind elderly man, just sighed. He looked down at his desk. And then he told me the truth. My brother, Toyob Ali, had visited him weeks ago. He had somehow convinced mother during her final weekdays to sign a document granting him full power of attorney. The entire property was already signed over to him. My name was nowhere on the document. My own brother had stolen my mother's property. I left the lawyer's office. But I wasn't walking. I was stumbling. My legs felt like they were made of stone. The truth was a physical force, crushing my chest. I drove straight home, the betrayal echoing in my ears. My own brother, Toyob Ali, had stolen from our mother. When I confronted him, he was sitting in the living room, calm, watching television. I didn't shout. I just held up the lawyer's card and asked him, simply, "Why, Toyob Ali? Why did you do this to our mother's name?" He didn't deny it. He didn't look ashamed. He just sighed, a sound of annoyance, not regret. He said, with a terrifying coldness, "It was necessary, Sakina. I am the son. I need the security. You have a husband. You don't need the full property." I felt the blood drain from my face. This wasn't the brother I grew up with. This was a stranger, a thief, cloaked in familial love. I cried. I begged him, "Toyob Ali, how could you betray mother's final wish? How could you lie to me? Are we not family?" He just looked at me with that same coldness and said, "It's done, Sakina. Legally, there's nothing you can do. Let's just be sensible." The sheer finality of his voice, it was devastating. In that moment, I realized that the value of the property was irrelevant. What truly died was the trust, the absolute unquestioning trust I had placed in my only brother, Toyob Ali. He had shattered the most sacred bond, the bond of siblings, over money. I remember collapsing onto the sofa. I didn't scream. I just wept silently. The kind of weeping that comes from the soul, not the eyes. I mourned my mother again, but this time I mourned the loss of my brother, the man who ceased to exist the moment he chose greed over his sister. I asked myself, was this man, Toyob Ali, always capable of this cruelty? Or did the opportunity, the property, create this monster? I found no answer, only a hollow space where my faith in family once stood strong. The shock eventually solidified into a quiet determination. I decided I could not let this act of dishonor stand, not for the money, but for the principle. I had to fight Toyob Ali, the man who was once my brother, in the legal arena. This wasn't a fight I wanted. It was a fight forced upon me. Going to court means airing all your dirty laundry in public, exposing the deep dysfunction within your household. But I had no choice. I had to honor my mother's memory and her final, clear instruction. I knew the journey would be long, painful, and costly, but watching Toyob Ali's cold, unapologetic face, I understood that the price of silence would be the eternal crushing weight of his betrayal. I had to seek justice. The decision to pursue justice was the easy part. The reality of fighting my own brother, Toyob Ali, in court was an entirely different kind of misery. It felt deeply unnatural, like tearing the very fabric of our shared childhood. Every single court date was a fresh cut. I wasn't just fighting him. I was fighting the memory of my mother and the history of our family. I had to look at Toyob Ali across the courtroom, a man who once held my hand as a child, and hear his lawyer coldly dismantle my mother's wishes. He sat there, emotionless, only focused on the legal victory. His legal arguments were built on technicalities, exploiting the power of attorney document he had cunningly secured. He made our mother look confused and unclear in her final days. The truth became secondary to the legal procedure. I realized then that this fight wasn't about the money. It was about defining my brother's character. The devastating revelation that he prioritized greed over kinship. The cost of the legal fees mounted, but the cost to my soul was far greater. I was spending my resources to prove that my brother was capable of unforgivable deception. The legal battle wasn't private. It became the talk of our community. People whispered. They chose sides. The shame I felt was intense, but it was nothing compared to the sadness of seeing my husband suffer this second humiliation. First, my daughter Kani's running away. Now, this public display of familial dishonor. He tried to be supportive, attending the hearings with me, but I saw the pain in his eyes. He felt exposed. He kept saying, "Sakina, why do we have to air our household secrets in public? Can't we just let it go?" He wanted the easy way out, but I couldn't give up. Not because of the money, but because I knew that if Toyob Ali won, the betrayal would be legally sanctioned. I had to continue, carrying the weight of the family's scrutiny and my own internal struggle. I kept fighting. I fought for my mother's peace. I fought to show my own children, Ibrahim and Asha, that honesty and integrity must always be defended, even when the opponent is family. I fought for the principle that money should never be allowed to destroy a sibling's bond. The tragedy of fighting Toyob Ali was the finality of the separation. There were moments in court where our eyes would meet. I would look at him, searching for the kindness, the memory of our childhood laughter, the brother who used to protect me. But I saw nothing, only a cold, hardened gaze. I realized that the boy I knew was truly gone. He had sealed off all humanity and replaced it with a calculated defense. I was no longer his sister. I was merely his legal adversary. This profound realization that the tie of blood had been broken by greed was a pain that superseded even the grief of losing our mother. I often think about forgiveness. Could I ever forgive Toyob Ali? Not for the property, but for extinguishing my faith in the family unit. The answer remains elusive, shrouded in the ongoing sorrow and the cold reality of the legal system. The legal battle, like all battles driven by greed and bitterness, eventually ended. The court proceedings were long and expensive. The outcome was mixed, a compromise that satisfied no one. We didn't receive the full portion of the property our mother intended, but we did receive a settlement that legally acknowledged Toyob Ali's malicious intent. Winning felt like losing, Ibrahim. I had spent years of my life, resources meant for my own children, just to prove that my brother was capable of betrayal. The property itself was now tainted by the court documents and the ugly memories. I had gained justice, but I had lost my brother forever. The emotional cost was astronomical. The final verdict proved one devastating point. The material is never worth the loss of kinship. The money could be recovered, but the trust in Toyob Ali was irreversibly destroyed. My husband and son accepted the outcome with weary relief. The public whispering eventually faded, but the silence in my relationship with Toyob Ali remained absolute. I never saw him again outside of court. He made his choice. He built his life on a lie, and I was left to contend with the aftermath. After the court case, everyone asked me the same question. Will you forgive your brother, Toyob Ali? Forgiveness is easy to speak of, but difficult to enact when the betrayal is so foundational. I learned that forgiveness isn't for the betrayer. It's for the victim. I have stopped carrying the anger towards Toyob Ali. I released the burden of the fight for the sake of my own peace and my family's stability. But I cannot allow myself to trust him again. Trust is earned, not demanded. I have forgiven him the debt, but not the wound. I used this ordeal to teach my own children, Ibrahim and Asha, the most important lesson. Guard your integrity above all wealth. Never let the pursuit of money fracture the sacred bond of siblinghood. I showed them the devastating consequences of greed. And this is my final warning to every listener who has family, who has siblings, who has parents. Guard your legacy with honesty. Do not let financial opportunity reveal the worst version of yourself. The moment you choose secrecy and greed over transparency and love, you lose something eternal. You may win the property, as Toyob Ali briefly did, but you lose your soul and your history. I hope my story, the story of my battle with my own brother over our mother's property, serves as a devastating lesson. Choose love, choose honesty, protect your peace, because once the familial bond is broken over money, no court settlement, no apology can ever truly put it back together.